Good evening. Welcome to the February 10th Board of Education meeting. If everyone could rise for the pledge. Thank you. James, would you mind taking attendance?
Yes, President McDonough,
Here.
Vice President Whitney. Here. Secretary Summers here, Trustee Gibson, Treasurer, excuse me, is absent, and then Trustee Aldred. Here. Trustee Atchison.
Here.
Trustee Capigiorni, absent.
All right. Any changes to the board agenda?
If I could draw everyone's attention to the flowers on the table. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our superintendent. While National Superintendent Appreciation Week passed in December, during a very full season for the district, it feels important to pause and acknowledge the leadership, steadiness, and care that this role requires every day. We are grateful for the continued focus on students, staff, and the future of this district. Thank you, Tanya, for the work you do on behalf of this entire community.
Okay. Item 3, scheduled public comment. We have one this evening. Marissa Prince.
Good evening. In tonight's posted safety presentation materials, threat assessment and suicide prevention trainings are described as no longer being provided every year to all staff. Instead, they appear to be rotated every other year with some refresher opportunities that must be requested individually. Targeted group trainings are mentioned, but no percentage of staff trained or schedule is provided. There's no data. This reduction in training is surprising to me, given the commitments this community was promised after the shooting. In a real emergency, the first adult to notice a warning sign is usually not a member of a specialized threat assessment team. It is a classroom teacher, a bus driver, a secretary, a coach, someone in the hallway on the playground. These adults are the true front line of safety in our buildings. They cannot protect students if their training is inconsistent, optional, or years out of date. A real culture of safety requires trained staff in every role in every building. Public Act 272 of 2024, created in Michigan in direct response to the shooting here, requires districts to maintain threat assessment teams and to educate the school community on warning signs that someone may pose a risk to themselves or others. The findings of the guidepost investigation made clear that this education must reach all staff roles, because warning signs are most often seen by the everyday adults who interact with students the most. Our district understands the consequences of missed warning signs better than most communities do. After the shooting, we were promised a lasting culture of safety built on consistency, transparency, and system-wide responsibility. These are some of the same themes we will see tonight in the post-election report. In the district's formal response to the guidepost investigation, annual vector safety training for all staff was clearly committed to. It's online in the report, but tonight we see materials that describe this training as now rotated every other year. So we deserve a clear explanation of when this safety commitment that was made in direct response to the shooting was reduced. We've seen other safety practices change since then, but there were clear explanations like after hours use of Evolve or clear backpack use. So I'm asking for, when this additional safety leadership position is filled that's posted, that the first priority of that role is a top to bottom audit of our current training across the district and a clear course correction where needed, ensuring that all staff receive meaningful role appropriate training. The training frequency reflects best practice and community commitments, and there's complete transparency around completion, quality, and effectiveness. I asked the MDE how much Oxford will be getting in 31AA funding, and I heard back today that we're receiving $2.8 million in 31AA funding, and I'd like to see some of that money allocated just to make sure that our staff have what they need. Our teachers and staff try and work hard every day to keep our students safe amongst their many other important tasks, and our staff carries an enormous responsibility. It's the district's responsibility to support them with clear, consistent training that reflects both best practices and the promises that were made after the tragedy. I'm asking the district to restore consistent annual prevention and threat assessment training for all staff to ensure that our safety systems truly match the commitments that were made to this community, because student safety depends on every adult being ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Item 4, we have our consent agenda with our minutes and HR updates. If anyone would like to make that motion. I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Can I have support? James, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 5, our superintendent report. Dr. Milligan.
All right, good evening, everyone. For my report this evening, the first things first. What happened was, okay, there we go. There we go. As always, I want to ground us in our strategic plan, including our vision, empowering learners, building community, and inspiring future. Our mission, providing a supportive, safe, and opportunity-rich educational experience that fosters belonging, builds self-empowerment, and prepares learners to contribute to a connected community. And our core values, empowerment, belonging, innovation, and integrity. Tonight, I have highlights from our schools and departments, as well as our listening tour feedback presentation. Christy and Gary will be presenting that, and then our safety update with Dr. Allison Williman. I do want to share, the listening tour was very educational for me as a superintendent. And it was very clear that many deeply continue to feel the impact of the tragedy. I want to acknowledge that truth before I share our highlights tonight. When I share the highlights, it is not meant to disregard the pain or suggest that our healing work is done. Rather, it reflects the both and reality some have described. We continue to recognize the grief and the trauma, while also recognizing the care, resilience, and hope that students and staff are showing for one another every day. And with that, let me share some of our highlights. So at Clear Lake, we had our second graders go to Sloan Museum Learning Lab. Here they extended their science learning through a field experience at the lab and the planetarium. Students conducted hands-on investigations to observe and classify materials based on their properties, including exploring all 3 states of matter. A favorite investigation involved applying that learning to make ice cream, yum, combining curiosity, science, and joy of eating ice cream in a meaningful way. So that sounds fun. We have, I don't know if any of you have had a chance to do the STEM-I truck. Last year at one of our meetings, they had the STEM-I truck that Ann, Shane, and I went into, and it was unbelievable. So many cool things. So these are our 5th graders at Clear Lake. They participated in hands-on learning through the Oakland School STEM-I truck, exploring the variety of STEM careers and engaging with real-world tools and technology. The experience sparked curiosity and helped students make meaningful connections between their learning and possible futures. At Daniel Axford, we have student published books. Our 2nd graders celebrated the completion of their informative writing unit by publishing their own books. Families were invited to join the celebration and hear students share their work, honoring the growth, confidence, and joy of our young authors. And of course, I had to go for their Super Bowl Friday. They had soup celebration, and they invited me. The soup was amazing, and I was their super special guest for the Super Bowl lunch. So I was able to share time, connect with staff, and really appreciate that school community. It was really fun. And I walked away definitely filled with soup. I was also invited to go to Leonard, so thank you to Mr. K for inviting me to the Leonard Super Bowl celebration. So clearly this is a thing. We enjoyed visiting classrooms and seeing students and teachers engaged in lessons from reading and math to singing, and celebrating positive behavior at the PBIS store, which is what you see there. At OES, excellence is about character as much as achievement. This January, they celebrated students recognized by their peers for humility and kindness. The students of the month there on the left-hand side remind us that leading with care and staying grounded is an example for us all. In the middle, OES had their PBIS assembly. Students celebrated meeting school expectations with a lively staff versus student competition. From grade level challenges to friendly showdowns with teachers, the event highlighted teamwork, school spirit, and the joy of learning together at OES. And finally, on the right there, OES held their first 42-strong junior mentor-mentee meetup, where students created kindness jars. Beyond guidance, mentorship is about connection, helping students feel seen, heard, and supported while sharing wisdom and building confidence. At Lakeville, they were exploring stories and snap words. Lakeville celebrated Black History Month by highlighting individuals whose achievements have made a lasting impact on African American culture and history. Each classroom was created hallway displays, and students and staff participated in gallery walks to explore these inspiring stories. For example, Ms. Hodges' first grade class learned about Bessie Coleman, wrote facts together, and created self-portraits inspired by her story. Lakeville first graders practiced their snap words, which are words learned by sight, using Play-Doh, making learning hands-on and fun. I don't know how many of you have been watching the Winter Olympics. I am addicted. Curling has been very eye-opening for me. That's my jam. So here at Lakeville, Lakeville students are experiencing their own Winter Olympics. They've learned about Olympic flame, opening ceremonies, and Italy as the host country, and have kicked off the games with torch relays and elementary versions of Olympic events. Last week, students in Ms. Abad's class visited Urban Air for sensory-friendly experience where lights were lowered and noise was limited to support all learners. We are grateful to our community partners who help create welcoming and inclusive opportunities for every student. At OMS, they're celebrating teachers and kindness. They are proud to announce Ms. Laura Wilson as Oxford Middle School's 2026 Teacher of the Year. Ms. Wilson inspires students through creative, hands-on learning in the classroom and art club, ensuring every learner is engaged, supported, and challenged. Her dedication to differentiated instruction, student growth, and community connection makes her a respected leader who helps every student feel seen, heard, and empowered. Please join us in celebrating her outstanding contributions to our school community. On the right there, when a classmate needed a backpack, Kurt Eubanks immediately stepped in, saying, "Don't worry, I'll get you one," and followed through. Thank you, Kurt, for demonstrating generosity, leadership, and heart in action. Also at OMS, you had basketball and Shark Tank. Staff and students brought energy, sportsmanship, and Wildcat pride to a friendly basketball showdown, celebrating teamwork and school spirit. On the right, 7th graders explored ELA concepts through a real-world lens in the informational advertising unit, with guest speaker Mrs. Carr sharing her career in advertising. Students became innovators in a mock Shark Tank activity, creating products and pitching them as teams, showing off creativity and entrepreneurial spirit. On February 5th, Dr. Russell, SRO Rafalski, and Dr. Williman visited Dragon Hybrid to provide students with lessons on safety and bullying prevention. They discussed ways students can support one another and use positive communication to address peer conflict and prevent bullying. On the right-hand side there, Friends of the Woods is a nature elective through Oxford Virtual Academy that blends online coursework with hands-on experiences. Students develop outdoor skills like firekeeping, foraging, and orienteering while learning about the Earth's natural cycles. A recent Bald Mountain session focused on winter survival, where students built fires to explore seasonal adaptation. By combining virtual learning with in-person experiences, the program fosters student growth and meaningful connection to the natural world. At OHS, they had Winterfest and Charity Week last week. Oxford High School celebrated Winterfest and Charity Week. They do it each year, building community, school spirit, and student leadership. Winterfest features themed activities and events that bring students together for fun and connection, while Charity Week focuses on giving back with student-led fundraisers and service projects supporting local causes. Both traditions highlight student engagement, teamwork, and Wildcat pride. On the right-hand side there, Dana Brewer was honored as Oxford High School's 2026 Teacher of the Year, recognizing her exceptional dedication, impact on students, and commitment to excellence in teaching at OHS. Her leadership and contributions in the classroom reflect the values of our school community, and we congratulate her on this well-deserved recognition. We have our additional updates. I'd like to invite Gary Van Staveren and Christy Smith up to the mic to share their listening tour feedback.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Christy Smith, and I will be presenting with Dr. Gary Van Staveren. And we're looking forward to this presentation, listening, learning, and looking ahead as it pertains to the ballot proposals that we had on this past November. All right, so there's three main purposes of this presentation. The first is to demonstrate how community input was collected and reviewed. We're going to share what we learned from feedback following the November 4th vote and explain how the feedback is informing our next steps. All right, so just a little background information. As you're aware, on November 4th, Oxford voters considered an operating millage and a sinking fund millage. Both proposals were not approved. So following the vote, the district committed to gathering feedback from the community. And we did a few things here to get some feedback. We scheduled two listening sessions. So one of those was in person and one was virtual through Zoom. We sent out a digital community feedback survey. We provided an email address where people could send kind of open-ended comments and submit their written feedback through email. And we engaged in, just conversations with members of the community. So Through these engagement activities, we were seeking to understand three main things. The first was which sources of information people found to be most helpful in learning about the ballot proposals, what factors most influenced their votes, and the third is how the district could better support community understanding and engagement in the future. So the approach, we did want a combination of in-person and virtual options if people couldn't make it in person or if they felt more comfortable providing their feedback through, an online form. Either way, they did have the option for some open-ended input. So the online survey included multiple choice questions with an optional other response where they could type in additional information. And Gary will dive deeper into those results in just a few minutes. So in terms of the listening session formats, the first one that we held was in person, and it was facilitated by Dr. Milligan. We used a circle format, which is something that we do quite often in the district, and it was structured with some guiding questions, sort of framing that discussion, and many of you were there. We also had a virtual session, and the structure was very similar, or we tried to have it similar. It was through Zoom, but due to low participation in the virtual session, we wound up just kind of shifting gears and doing more of an open-ended, just, let's just discuss why you're here and what you think sort of format for the virtual session. Attendance at both sessions included a mix of community members and staff, with staff making up the significant portion of the participants. So while the attendance was small, those who participated did provide some valuable insights, so we just wanted to thank everyone, staff, community members, board members who were able to attend those sessions. All right, so getting into a few numbers here, the community participation overview. We didn't feel like we had a great turnout in the online survey, but that's where these numbers come from. And the turnout, the number of responses we got is not surprising given that it was to a broad audience, it was voluntary, and we didn't provide an incentive for completing the survey. So we wound up with 214 survey responses, which in the big scheme of things accounts for it adds up to 4% of total November voters. And 1.2% of eligible voters in Oxford schools. So around half of our responses came from an email that we sent to district families. So just something to keep in mind as you're looking at these results. About half came from our families in the district. Just a note on that, during some of the listening sessions, we did get feedback that we're using the leader in some cases, the Oxford Leader, to get word out about these opportunities for community participation. And someone had mentioned that there's, a good number of people who don't receive the leader and they receive the Citizen, which is the Ortonville paper. And so when we were sending out mostly the survey link for them to participate, we included that in the Citizen in Ortonville as well, and we were able to get some feedback from that area. Just another side note on that, in case you're social media fans, there was something circulate talking about how we spent money paying for those stickers to run in Clarkston, which is not true. We talked to the Oxford Leader. Some did run on the cover of the Clarkston News. They didn't have a great explanation why. It was just sort of an error in stickering paper. So rest assured, we didn't spend our district funds sending stickers to Clarkston. Okay, so carrying on, the respondents to this survey, the breakdown is there up on the screen, but 36% said they voted yes on both proposals. 43% said no on both proposals, and then 8% were split. They said they voted yes on one, no on one, and 13% preferred not to answer. So I'm going to turn it over to Gary to get into some of the key themes that emerged.
Okay, thank you. And again, it's good to see you, Gary Van Staveren. The key themes. When we look at the key themes, this is encompassing the listening sessions, it's encompassing the qualitative and quantitative survey results, so the bar graphs, but also the open-ended responses. So it's really encompassing all of that. And so when you look, there's really 4 key themes that came out. So fiscal responsibility and transparency, communication and information gaps, trust and accountability, and tax burden concerns. And so something to keep in mind also, Christy mentioned some things to keep in mind, but also this is the first time that we've had a vote since 2017. It's also the first time we've surveyed our community after a vote. So it's just also something to think about. That was pre-COVID, that was pre-tragedy. And so now we really have a good scope of our community and how everybody's feeling. So what you can see up here, when we focus on fiscal responsibility, we're going to talk a little bit later about how we're going to move forward with that. Trust and accountability, there is still, Dr. Milligan mentioned it, the tragedy has deeply affected our community, and that also came up in this survey result. Leadership accountability, legacy grievances. What do we mean by that? So legacy grievances, there was some feedback that went all the way back to Dr. Skilling and some 15, 20 years ago that still has come up. And so that's why you see legacy grievances up there as well. And then communication information gaps. And one of the things there is the perception that having the sinking fund and the operating millage simultaneously on the ballot might have been confusing. And then tax burden concerns, there's economic hardship. People are having economic hardship right now. That's a reality. And so the sinking fund was a tax increase. And so that, again, people that responded shared that with us as well. And taxpayer fatigue. Next, taking a look, what were the sources of information? And so what sources were most helpful when learning about these proposals? You can see here, just take a second to go ahead and look at those. Something to keep in mind is respondents can choose more than one. Okay, they can choose more than one. So you see right here, obviously 77. Again, Christy mentioned this, it's emails. And then 66 chose social media, community groups, and friends. Okay, 60 was the Oxford Leader. So clearly a lot of people got their information from the Oxford Leader. So again, as we think about this going forward, where people got their information is really important for us to consider. Thank you. Next, we're going to take a look at 2 questions. One is factors influencing voter decisions. What influenced you to vote yes? Which is this one, and the next one's what influenced you to vote no. And so this one, again, they can choose more than one. What influenced you to vote yes? And you're going to notice here that this is pretty well-rounded. This is pretty close to 20%. I have a student in Oxford schools. I support the district's needs, 24%. Also 24%. I generally support school millages. And then the top right, I think schools benefit the broader community. So again, pretty generalized there. Now the next one is looking at what influenced you to vote no, and you're going to see not so much outliers, but bigger differences. So not enough information. It was only 4.8%. Over here, I generally do not support, so this is good. 5.8% being kind of low. And then 41% was, I have concerns about the school district's finances. And then on the right, I have personal economic. So again, we go back to that, how I started with the themes. You can see those teased out here a little bit more specifically. Any questions so far? Okay. So this next one, again, what factors influenced your decision? We're looking at 2 questions here. So one question was, what could the district have done differently to influence your vote? And how could the district get more yes votes? So again, just take a second to go ahead and look at those. And then you can see here again, the district could be more financially transparent. Again, they can choose more than one here. And then you're going to see other. You're going to see 93. So other means that it was an open-ended response. And we're going to get to that in a moment. And now we're getting to that, the open-ended responses. So again, you see 4 main themes. These 4 themes are the same as at the very beginning when we started. So when you take all of it together, you're going to see the 4 same themes. What we want to tease out here are some direct quotes. So one of the quotes from a written response specific to these is, "I question the integrity of district spending decisions." So again, that aligns to one of our main themes. Another quote was, "I don't think people understand how schools are funded and what monies can and cannot be used." So again, as we think about going forward, how do we take this information and learn from it? Another direct quote was, "I think times are really hard for people right now." And so looking ahead, I'm going to turn it back over to, no. Nope, this is still me. No? I think I'm on the wrong page. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. It is still me. So looking ahead, we are moving forward this August with an operating millage. Only an operating, not sinking fund. I want to be very clear on that. This is just an operating millage. This is not a tax increase. And it's very important to note that an operating millage funds our day-to-day operations. It pays for our staff. It pays for their salaries, textbooks. It pays for things right in the classroom that are fundamental to student learning, which is why we're all here. It pays for our utility bills, athletics, extracurriculars, mental health services. And this August, obviously we're taking this back to voters if it's approved by our Board of Education. But if this does not pass by December, we're looking at about $7 million in cuts. So it's very urgent. Now, I believe I'm going to turn it back over to Christy.
All right, we're going to play hot potato a little with the mic toward the end here. So Gary mentioned some of the themes that emerged, and so we're going to look at each of those themes now in terms of how that might change our approach or our messaging moving forward as we move toward August with the potential operating millage again on the ballot. So the first one here is communication and information gaps. There are some things that we'll need to communicate differently moving forward with this one. So number one is enhance information on how Michigan school funding works and how operating millage funds are used. Really last time, a lot of the messaging that we put out was just trying to get us from that 17.3 mils up to 18. So that's kind of that red line. So the focus of the November messaging was, yay, thanks, was just more or less, you know, we are here at 17.3. The red represents about $250,000 a year. That's what we're more or less leaving on the table if we're not collecting the full 18 that the state expects. And so that was sort of the focus, trying to get people to understand the Headley Amendment, how we got there, and why we need to be back to 18 to get the state per pupil funding amount. So moving forward, if we're to place this on the ballot again, instead of looking at 17.3 where we want to be at 18, we need to really start looking at 17.3 mils versus 0, which would be the loss of about $7 million a year that Gary just mentioned. So definitely creates more of a sense of urgency. We did hear in the listening sessions from the community on items that they want to maintain in schools, and even items that would like to be added to our schools and our programming. So we're definitely going to need clear communications on which services and programs would be affected if we were to have to cut $7 million from our annual budget. The second one, nope, still right here, yep. We need to provide clear, complete information through the channels our community already uses. We learned, like you just saw, that a lot of community members get their information from the Oxford Leader as a reliable source. We also, and what you saw there was from the electronic survey. We also heard that from the listening sessions, just conversations as well. We learned that the information we put out needs to function as a primary source. So we had so much information on the web and videos and flyers and FAQ and all these things. People weren't generally looking at one piece of information. Let's say there's an article in the Oxford Leader with a link to go to our webpage to learn more. They weren't necessarily taking that second step. So any of the key information that we need to provide needs to be out there more or less as a primary source. The third bullet point is providing clarity around the operating millage not being Oxford specific, and also not a new tax burden for our local businesses. So I think that it's something that we need to make more clear, that the operating millage, if it passes this time around, is not new. It would not be a new tax. The businesses in town are already paying this tax, 17.3 mils. So the amount to take it back to 18 is a very small amount for them. And it is part of how Michigan funds public schools. And I'm saying that because it makes a difference in terms of if they set up shop in Oxford, they'll be expected to pay 18 mils. If they open their business in Lake Orion or Lapeer or Brandon or wherever, they'll be expected to pay 18 mils toward the local school district. That's just how schools are funded. So it's not something that we'd be putting on the ballot and it would be potentially out there to hurt our businesses here. It's just the way schools are funded. Yeah, we also do plan to partner with the Oxford Chamber of Commerce, the DDA, other local groups, because really strong schools and a strong local economy are connected. So these partnerships will help ensure the conversation includes the full community. The fourth thing here is providing information earlier. So our absentee and early voting numbers in Oxford were very high, even compared to other areas in the state. It was about 63% of the votes came in early. So while we had a lot of information out there, we don't feel like it was out there early enough. So we're going to work to be more proactive with releasing information as we move toward August if this happens to be on the ballot again. The second theme that Gary mentioned was tax burden concerns. And so we'll need to make sure that it's clear that it's an operating millage only. This is a millage that would not be a tax increase to a homeowner on their primary residence. So there would not be the plan to ask the board to approve a sinking fund again for the August vote. The second thing is the thing I just said, does not increase taxes. And then the third thing has to do with fund balance. So while the district would have preferred to pass a sinking fund in November, which would have provided ongoing funding for supporting our buildings and infrastructure, that didn't happen. So Courtney's going to actually go into a lot more deep tonight than I will right now. So I'll just kind of save that for her. But the district is examining ways to use some of our district's fund balance to meet the most critical projects or needs for our buildings.
Okay, and continuing on those four themes and how we're moving forward. The next one is fiscal responsibility and transparency. Here, want to draw us back to how are we doing this going forward? The strategic plan goal number 4, and very specifically 4.4, the aligned action, which is to enhance operational systems by streamlining resource management and implementing fiscally responsible strategies that promote efficiency, sustainability, and long-term infrastructure support. So we are already focusing on that, and it's already embedded in our strategic plan. Something else is that we are developing a citizens school finance group, and if you would like to express interest, you can email info@oxfordschools.org. Again, info@oxfordschools.org if you'd like to be part of a citizens school finance group. We're also putting out an annual report that will be coming out soon. I don't know exactly when, but it'll be coming out soon, an annual report, which is really like a state of the district overview from a fiscal stewardship standpoint. And also, our superintendent, Dr. Milligan, has already, I think this already happened, monthly in the Oxford Leader, she's also putting a column there to, again, provide more financial information, looking at cost-saving measures, facilities in the state of our district. So again, trying to be really transparent and fiscally responsible. One thing I do want to draw our attention to is that on our website, if I just get out, escape. It's funny, I'm a tech guy. And right here. Okay, on our district website, if you go just right on our homepage, in the top right corner, you're going to see transparency reporting. And so one of the things that came up again in our survey and listening tour was about that. And so want to draw your attention there because all of our approved budgets, you can see here going all the way back to 2017. Also over here, you can see our audited financial statements. So every year we're audited by, I believe, Yo and Yo, and that has to be approved by the state. That is there. You can also see our accounts payable check register. And so you can go through month by month and see our accounts payable. You can see what we're spending on electricity if you want to. You can also go down here and you can look at our credit card statements, and you can take a look at that monthly, what we're spending on our credit cards. So I know Christy has mentioned it, that source of information, not a lot of people were going to the website, but this is there if you want to go in and look at our financials. Did I do that right? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Shared a lot of information. Trust and accountability. So we've heard, as you've heard tonight, and we've heard very clearly that trust and accountability remain very important to our community. And we know that trust isn't built through statements or presentations. This is going to take time. And consistent actions, transparency, and again, time. So we just want to make that very clear. This feedback tonight, this reinforces how important it is for us all to be thoughtful and consistent in our work moving forward. So tonight, also want to let you know that these results, the qualitative and quantitative survey results, are posted to our website.
All right, so just to wrap it up here, ongoing engagement and action. So we do plan to continue listening to community members, families, and local businesses and providing opportunities for that communication. We're going to provide factual, timely, and clear information to voters, maintain transparency and consistent communication across channels. We'll make decisions guided by sound fiscal responsibility and district priorities, and foster trust through ongoing engagement and accountable practices. So this ongoing engagement action is going to require collaboration and alignment among the board, district leadership, staff members, and the entire community as we move forward. So I think we can open it to questions if there are any.
Any questions, comments? Mike?
Not really a question, but just, I mean, thank you for presenting this and breaking it all down. I appreciate that. I know there was a lot of information in that feedback, and I appreciate it because this is really what we've been talking about, right? This is, I've been bringing up the concern that people weren't looking at the website. Now we see from a data standpoint that really it's a low percentage compared to our top 6 probably. It's below that. And so I just appreciate it. So thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
we'll see where to go from now.
Thank you. I agree. There were a lot of lessons learned there, and I thank you for aggregating the data to give us a really sound picture of what we're looking at ahead. So appreciate it.
We good? All right.
Thank
you. Thanks, Gary, Christy. Allison with our safety update.
All right, good evening. Here's our February safety update. And I'm here tonight to talk about upcoming opportunity that we have for some community training, as well as to update some of our trainings and trainer of trainer things that trainers who are trained to train across the district. So first, just want to remind everyone about our safety anchor chart so that if you have any questions for things that may not be addressed tonight, but you come across something that you're thinking about, this is on the school safety and security part of our website. So it's there for you to reference. And then starting with our annual exterior door audit, this is something that we've done yearly since the 2023-2024 school year. This is to make sure that our exterior doors are closed and locked as appropriate, that they do latch. So we do have an independent, unarmed person come and assess that for each of our buildings. And we do that to make sure that as much as we're going around and pulling and pushing and doing all of that, that it's not because I'm on a campus. Someone is coming on a day, I'm not gonna tell you, to assess that. And we do that through an independent source to ensure that that the data is what it is, that it's an independent evaluator coming along. That person is unarmed. They are not going to come up to the door and try and get a child to open the door or even any adult. They are just testing doors. And this matters because as we can see what's up here, bad actors will attempt to go where the security is lax, and that could be if a door is propped open, if it doesn't latch all the way. And there's been plenty of times where people in their lives, you've probably seen this, where you thought the door was closed all the way and it wasn't. And so just having that discussion throughout our district of make sure you're pulling and you're pushing and you're checking doors, this is our way to independently assess that. We also do an annual front office audit. That is when someone comes to the building and is trying to gain access, whether they're saying, I have an appointment with Mr. Miller. And are they just going to be let into Mr. Miller's office or not, even though there's no proof that there's an appointment? Are they going to be welcomed into the building? We assess that to ensure that we're not just letting everybody into our buildings. Just because you say you have a reason to be here doesn't mean that you do. And so that also is something that we do every year, that is an independent, unarmed auditor that comes and does that. And it's important, and I think the big importance of that is that bottom line of every student belongs here and every adult is verified to be here. I have my badge on, but I guarantee everyone across the district doesn't know who I am, but I have this, and I can badge myself in. But if someone's not wearing that, if someone is able to gain access to the office, how is that being addressed? And so through the previous years that we've done this, in each of the years in the 2023 and the 2024 school year, as well as the 2024-2025 school year, no one was able to breach an exterior door. They were all closed and locked. During the first year of our audits, Clear Lake and OMS were highlighted for their radio communication and their ease of identification of someone on grounds that didn't need to be there, which speaks a lot to their communication practices as well as their awareness. We are instructional leaders, and that is the purpose that we're here, but it's also showing by highlighting those two campuses that they're able to do both. They're able to maintain that secure environment as well as ensure that learning is still occurring. And then last year, it was noted that there was clear radio communication going on as someone entered the property, and the visitor, as he was able to go on there, he was immediately asked to show identification, asked for purpose, and was denied entry into the building since there was no appointment and no purpose to be there. So we are hoping for the same results this year as well, but it is something we continue to audit. We have seen in the news in the Metro Detroit area of an instance this year where an administrative assistant prevented something terrible from happening because of that vigilance. And that is the perfect example of why we've been doing this for the past couple of years. And so that is upcoming. Date will not be said because the whole point is to independently audit it. This is a training we've talked about. It is the threat evaluation and reporting overview. This is that next step for us. We have fully trained threat assessment teams at the campus level. We have a district trained threat assessment team that's able to provide support. We've been able to give targeted instruction. We have our vector training where all new hires receive threat assessment overview, suicide risk assessment overview, which is every other year. This is to fill in the gap in between. As we've seen from our threat assessment and suicide risk assessment reports and screeners, reporting is not a problem on any of those. But this is that next step where we're able to train all stakeholders. So as we've shared in previous presentations, myself and Melissa Cree, one of our school psychologists, we are master trainers through the Department of Homeland Security. And because of that, and we sought this certification out for this purpose, to be able to give this course multiple times a year to our community, which would include staff members. So this is an optional opportunity for staff members, for community members to be able to see exactly what's up here, to learn more about risk factors, triggers, stressors, protective factors, ways that as bystanders we can support, because we know that there is a lot of information out there and we want to be able to capture as many people as possible. And so by seeking this certification, we were able to provide this community program. And if you look at the Enhancing School Safety Using a Threat Assessment model, and it's a long title, but it's on the NTAC website, the National Threat Assessment Center website. Step 8, when you're developing a threat assessment program, is to train all stakeholders. We first and foremost had to have our trained teams, our campus teams who can do that. Now we've been able to branch out. We've been able to have our teams at both the district and the campus levels. We have our regularly monthly meetings with those teams. We work together as needed between campuses with each other. They call me, I call them. We have a centralized reporting mechanism, all things that are highlighted in this guide. Step 8 is training for all stakeholders, which includes community members. So this is a great opportunity for us to be able to bring it to the greater community. And I know that went out in an email, but wanted to share here as well. We will have 2 trainings this year. We have ran this through the District Safety Committee, the Parent Safety Advisory Board, the Wildcat Cub Club has also gone through this training. So it has been offered in 3 ways this year already, 2 smaller groups, because we do want to ensure, as important as this training is, that we are at a place where we're ready for this training, because it can be activating. And so we want everyone to make the choice that's best for them and where they are as they do this. So we will be offering it in 2 formats. The first will be on February 26th. It is a webinar. The bit.ly is live, so you are able to register that way. We do ask for pre-registration just so that we're able to accommodate the expected guest. And then in April, we will have an in-person training available at the middle school. Thank you, middle school, for being willing to host us. And again, we will have, closer to the date, we will have registration available because we want to be able to accommodate all those that are interested. There are 6 of us in Oakland County that are trained as trainers for this. So if we need to invite more trainers to be able to join us, we have that ability. We want to make sure that we can accommodate as many people who would like to attend as possible. And this will focus on exactly the things that our staff gets in their initial vector training, which is concerning behaviors, warning signs, and how to report. And so this is just another layer added in. And in a way, as we're guided through the Cybersecurity for Infrastructure Security Agency and the National Threat Assessment Model, that training isn't a one-time thing. And we know this as educators, training needs to be ongoing. And so we can't just do the one-time vector and check the box. We want to make sure over the year we're able to have those touch points. That's also why at our monthly safety meetings, the audience varies depending on the different situations that we're talking about. And our staff, again, they're great at reporting. They're fantastic at reporting. We have created a culture of safety in this district that if you see something, you say something. It's not up to you. If it just is a little off, come report it so that we can work on it and a team can assess that. And then to get into who are trainers. So the people in our district that are trained to train other people in that. Currently, we have myself. I am trainer for threat assessment using the NTAC model that was in cooperation with the Michigan State Police Office of School Safety. As I referenced earlier, there are 2 of us in the district that are considered master trainers through the Department of Homeland Security. We have 2 people that are trained as trainers in digital threat assessment. We have 4 people in the district that are currently trained in it, and we have 2 people who can train others. And the goal for that is to really have at least 1 person on each campus who is trained in that, because we know that students are getting social media younger and younger, and we want to be able to search open source, publicly available material in a way that's going to help us in our investigations. Because myself and Trevor Marshall, who does a lot of technology work with me for security, because we became trainers in that, we have access to their monthly briefings. So as they update, as there's new social media, we know that there's people going away from TikTok and going to another form of social media. They're going to start researching that for us. So we have access to those monthly briefings as well as their entire library of information. And so today when I was on a campus and I said, have you heard of this type of social media? Oh, I could probably use a refresher. I have access to that to be able to give that quick one. We're not having to research or hire or bring somebody in for that. So it really is, it's kind of exciting to have that available for us, because it's too much with all the social media that's out there, and then trying to understand the trends and how people are using it in a malicious manner, because that's not how I use social media. So being able to have access to that material is going to be a huge benefit for us. Standard response protocol and standard reunification method. There are 15 people across the district. I'm getting confirmation because we just had a round of people go to training, but I can say that we do have at least 1 person on each campus that is a trainer for standard response protocol and standard reunification method. And the purpose for that is really making sure that our processes that we use they're not waiting for district level people to share that information. We go through that at the various campuses throughout the year. We use our drills. Our mass notification system is aligned with the standard response protocol. Raptor Alert is aligned with standard response protocol and standard reunification method. And so we want to be able, in anticipation of the standardized terminology, that law will go into effect on July 1st. So being able to be aware of that and have that firm, that we're not trying to crawl when the law's already in place, we're hitting the ground running. So having a trainer on each campus with that complex system is going to be very beneficial. We have a very strong district reunification team, and our district reunification leader meets with each campus to be able to just make sure we're all on the same page throughout the year. And then Prepare Workshop 1 covers all 5 phases of emergency management. We currently have 2 trainers for that. And Prepare Workshop 2, which is our response and recovery, we have 3 in-district trainers for that. And that's really beneficial, not just if there's something big, like if a tornado comes through, but if there's any sort of situation that could require a response. And it's not even necessarily a recovery portion. It's how do we support our kids? And when you look at all of this in totality, it really is how are we supporting our students? And then that is part of the discussions that we're having as we're doing this. So going into vector training, you can see as you're a new hire, these are all of the vector trainings that you complete. There's a lot. I am not going to read all of them to you. It's a pretty extensive list. And with that, then we have our annual refresh. There are new things. You may see the AI. That's been a big change in the world. It's really hard, even when you Google something, to be able to avoid AI. And so making sure that all staff members are aware of that is really important. But then we go back to when we look at the bottom, the alternate refresh, and choosing to do the threat assessment and suicide risk assessment as part of the refresh connects right back to the threat evaluation and reporting overview course that we will offer multiple times a year. And so it's not that we're putting any of that on the back burner. It really is emphasizing it in a different way and being able to have in-house trainers who can really then speak to the specific needs of each group. And I know there's times where we've gone to transportation and been able to provide that training, which is a different audience to be able to ask different questions, and had a great response after. And it wasn't necessarily threat assessment related. A lot of it was they were concerned for their kids that are on their bus every day. And so again, that layer, that ongoing learning opportunities that we have to be able to help our staff feel like they can report. And we've seen from the data that we are comfortable reporting. We are comfortable with see something, say something. And so that's really a big push for why that is, because there's so much available for our teams. And so that is it. I would like to clarify something that was said during the public scheduled comment regarding the threat assessment law that will go into place this year. It requires that threat assessment teams are trained, which we are already in compliance with. It does require that the Michigan State Police Office of School Safety provides materials for training. But if we go back to the NTACT guide that I referenced, the Enhancing School Threat Assessment using a school safety model, that's where it says in step 8 that there needs to be training for all stakeholders, which is why we are offering the TARO training. Questions?
Questions, comments? First, I would like to say I appreciate lifting up the exterior door audit. As you mentioned, there have been multiple issues locally and statewide recently of that being concerning. So I am very hopeful that we'll pass once again this year, and appreciate the work being done and the staff dedication to keeping those doors locked and secured. That's excellent. As far as the new vector model, I just have to be honest, it was a little jarring to hear that this year we have eliminated that from all staff training. Now with the TERO training being offered, that's not mandatory though, correct, for staff?
Correct, and we haven't eliminated the threat assessment and suicide risk assessment. We've put it on a refresher cycle.
Every other year.
All
right?
new hires are automatically assigned that, and then every other year, they'll take that course. And the TARO training is not mandatory, but I can tell you when I went onto a campus today, I had about 4 or 5 people ask me about it and if they could take it because they were a staff member. And then when I talked to them about it, they're like, I'm absolutely signing up for it. So the interest is there.
To that point, is there going to be additional communication going out directly to staff regarding this training?
That is something that we can work with the communication department on.
Yeah,
make
I
sure
can actually answer that. Yes, we are sending out to staff, we're sending out to families, we're sending out in the annual report. There's going to be information in that report going to every household in Oxford. We're also putting information in the leader for people to attend, so we're trying to get it out in as many ways as possible.
Excellent to hear. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so the plan after this, the TERO training, that will be conducted yearly
Yes.
moving forward from
Yes.
here?
Multiple times a year.
Approximately 2?
At least 3.
At least 3. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other additional questions, comments? All right.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, thanks, Allison, and that concludes the superintendent update.
All right, moving into item 6, our Board of Education matters. We had a governance committee meeting. Who would be taking that? Ann,
I
thank
can
you.
take that. So we recently met for governance and started going over the board leadership code. There was some great feedback that we've gotten through that survey, and just working through that. We'll continue to work through that throughout our next session. And then also we discussed changing the format of the committee of the whole so that it's a little bit more effective and engaging, just coming up with some more suggestions to really connect with our community, since we haven't had that much response when we've done at some of our different locations before the meetings. So if anyone has anything that they want to contribute to those ideas, that'd be great. But yeah, just looking at that, and then also the suggestion of workshopping the book from David. Just looking at perhaps a spring workshop and holding off on a book study for now, seeing how, if a spring workshop is able to work in our schedule, if that was something that could work both from our planning and David's availability. If everyone was open to that, if that was something we wanted to discuss at the table at some point.
I do have one missing. I am all for a spring workshop, I know Tanya and I had discussed whether we include David as a facilitator or just take it upon ourselves and do additional work pertaining to the principles that he shared. That's, of course, open for suggestions or communication. I would like to, considering the history of scheduling, just get a date sooner rather than later. So were you thinking April, May? Did you guys have any particular?
We just suggested spring, so to kind of stick with something quarterly, but whatever works to avoid the insanity of spring, but also, I don't know what David's, if you wanted to
Right.
loop him in, he did a great job of really helping to clarify some of those archetype, themes, but whatever people are comfortable with.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that workshop, by the way. I thought the communication and the dialogue that we had within our group settings in the workshop was really helpful and enlightening. So I would like to continue that work as a board. I will say that May is typically chaotic for all of us, so maybe we could try April. So if everyone can start taking a look at their calendars, then we'll lift up some available dates in April. I think the consensus last time that it would be more beneficial on a Saturday as opposed to during the work week. So maybe we'll try to aim for a Saturday.
Great. Do you want to
Sound good?
plan to discuss or
Okay.
touch base with David to see what he's got and what might be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can reach out to David, and Tanya and I will coordinate and send out a communication as far as availability goes.
Great.
Thank you for that. Any additional governance?
No, that was it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay. Item B, our school of choice approval. This was presented at last meeting. If anybody would like to make a motion.
Do it.
Mike, thank you.
Let's see. Move to approve the school of choice for fall of 2026 as presented.
Support? Ann, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Sarah Beth? Item C are field trip approvals. Can I get a motion for that? Mike, thank you.
Move to approve the OHS Leadership, OHS DECA States, and OHS DECA Nationals field trips as presented.
Support. James, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, we have the Oakland Schools Enhancement Millage. This is just first reading. We've all heard about this, read about it, been informed through various channels on what this is. If there's any particular discussion points that would like to be lifted up? I think this is probably best that we do not vote to move this forward, but if there are any differing opinions out there to discuss.
Just
we
to
have-
clarify, this is being proposed to be on the August ballot.
Correct, the same
Okay.
ballot that
The
we're
same
looking
ballot.
at putting the millage.
This would be countywide, so every school district would see this.
Yes,
Even if we didn't happen to support it, it would be up to, what was the percentage, do you remember?
51, I think. 51%.
51% of students in the
Student population.
student population, okay. Just want to clarify for anyone wondering, how did it end up
Yep.
on there? Okay.
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out, that regardless of how we vote, this is going to be up to all of the districts.
And when will Oakland schools be voting again on it? Schools be voting to, I can't remember.
I think
So
all
they-
districts have to vote in February, and then they're going to,
February and March, so by March, probably
Okay.
end of March. we'll know.
That's fine.
and I think a few have already voted from what I've heard through the grapevine, so it seems to be a mixed bag out there. Additional points or clarification on that? We'll vote at that the next meeting. All right. Moving into item 7, we have Anita presenting our course catalog.
Right, thank you. Good evening. Tonight I am I'm bringing forth the course catalog that was actually approved at the August 26th board meeting in hoping to present 4 new course additions that we would like to be considered for the 26-27 school year. As you know, I had indicated in the Monday memo that this time of year we've got, one foot in the 25-26 school year and 1 foot in the 26-27 school year. And so our students will be coming up here in the next month and a half, time to start selecting their courses for next school year. One of my goals is to bring the course catalog more frequently than just waiting for once a year. So as we are making considerations or making revisions or additions, I'd like to bring it forth so we're always operating and managing from the most current course catalog. So tonight I'm going to present a very brief overview of 4 new courses that we would like to be added to the course catalog, both 2 at the middle school, 2 at the high school. And just like last time, or always, today is just sharing what they are, and then the next time we come together, if you approve, we will go back to the course catalogs, add them to the course catalogs, and assign numbers to them so that they could be potentially chosen from our students. All right, so the 4 course additions include at the high school an International Baccalaureate IB Diploma Program dance course, an OMS dance course, a multimedia performance course at the middle school, and a Spanish heritage class at the high school. And so the slides that follow are a little bit more information about each course, so you can see what they are and why we are hoping to add them. So the first course that we are looking to add is the IBDP dance course. The course overview says that this course is more of a study on dance history, tradition, cultural expression, and dance as an art form. This is a little different from the current dance classes that we have that are way more performance-based. And so, for example, at the conservatory, you often have a pretty rich dance background. You've already been a dancer for many years, and you are dancing a lot. In this particular course, it would really offer all students an opportunity to really learn more about dance as an art of a form of expression, and again, learning the history. There will be some performance, but consider this to be more of a classroom-based course rather than you're actually dancing all the time course. It just offers a broader approach and hopefully encouraging students who maybe are not necessarily into dancing all the time, but an opportunity to study culture and history through dance. Some of the units you can see are there: composing and analyzing original artwork, world dance studies, how do different cultures or different countries around the world use dance to express their culture, and then again, some performance, mostly in the end, but it will not be the primary mode in this course. So continuing on the dance theme, we are hoping to add an OMS dance course to the OMS course catalog. This would be a new offering. It would be a 20-week introductory course for 6th graders. I know already some people got wind that this is coming, and there's some maybe upset feelings that it's only for 6th grade right now, but if it gets passed and added to the course catalog, I know Christy's looking at me because we've already been talking of if there is a lot of interest in it, how might we consider other grade levels. Specifically, it would be teaching around dance technique, choreography, history, dance appreciation, and you can see the different types of dance forms up there. This has really been in response to a desire from our students, community, and staff to add a course to the middle school. It would be a very nice continuation or a feeder into the dance program at the high school for those who would like it. It's another form of movement. Not every student likes to play basketball or volleyball or move their body through traditional athletic ways. This would be a great way to get at physical and mental health for students who are interested in dance as that vehicle for them. Additionally, we are looking to add a new elective course called Multimedia Performance. This is also a 20-week course. This course is really a nice way to look at cross-curricular connections. So combining English language arts standards, theater, performing arts standards and skills in order to create and communicate more effectively. As you know, as you participated in the community, the whole around the Portrait of a Graduate, communication, collaboration skills, critical thinking skills were a lot of what we discussed last time. And this course could really help be a vehicle to develop those skills. You can see the major units and themes below. Storyboard, so visual deconstruction and analysis, physical and visual continuity, collaborative broadcast structure, so studying how even like broadcasts are organized and making their own broadcasts, audio engineering, and professional scene recreation. They, when you look at the actual course breakdown by week, there is a lot of like writing, reading, scripting, and then a lot of hands-on experiences where they're going to have to work with one another to build essentially and perform. And finally, the last course that we are hoping to add is a Spanish heritage course at the high school. Currently, our Spanish offerings, we have Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, AP, IB, DP Spanish, a lot of Spanish offerings. They're all great, and there's something to meet the needs of most of our students. We do have a growing population of native Spanish speakers. So they are students who already speak Spanish in the home. They are coming with a higher level of Spanish language skills, written, spoken, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And so sometimes when they are even placed in the higher level classes, they're not really being challenged. And so this course would actually function a little bit more like take an ELA class, an English language arts class in English, and we would mimic that as like a Spanish class. So they would be reading a Spanish novel. they would be learning about different dialects or exploring cultures even more in depth than our current classes are right now. So there is a specific entrance and exit criteria for this course. We want to make sure that we're targeting the right students. We've done a lot of research. Specifically, Spanish teacher Connor Cicella at the high school visited a few different districts around the county who offer this course. He went to Avondale, Pontiac, Clarkston, and has worked closely with them to see how they support their native speakers through a course like this. And so he's also been working with our ELA teachers at the high school to see what are some of the reading and writing units you teach in ELA, what are some novels you're using in your ELA course. And so he has already put together a list of those in the Spanish versions that he would like to incorporate into the course. So those are the 4 courses. Again, we are hoping to add to the course catalog for offerings for the 26-27 school year. I do want to mention that anytime a course is on the course catalog, it doesn't mean they're going to run. Like the registrations drive whether or not we run them, whether we run 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, and so on. So right now what we're asking is to see that we've heard that there's interest and there's a need in these elective offerings. We'd like to put them in the course catalog and see how we do with enrollment. All right. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
The multimedia performance, is that for all of the middle school or is it specific grade?
I believe it's, Christy, you can correct me, but is it 7th? Okay, there you go.
It's 7th grade?
Yep.
Okay.
There is a 6th grade offering that this teacher teaches that's more basic, right? Yes, just the theater. So this would be an expansion to that. So if they really enjoyed their theater class, and there was a staff member earlier I was talking to who said, oh yeah, my kid loves that teacher, would love to take that class.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
For me, you mentioned, you mentioned for the Spanish one that like the teacher at the high school really championed that, kind of researched it. How are we gauging, understanding that putting it in the course catalog doesn't guarantee there's going to be, we're gauging interest in that way as well, but how do we gauge that interest beforehand? I guess I know you mentioned that for OMS, for instance, like there definitely was some interest with the staff and students on adding some of these classes, but how do we really gauge that?
So I appreciate you saying that. It was one of my talking points, and I did say we did survey students.
Okay.
So
sorry.
So let me make sure I say the order correctly. So we've been gauging through just observational or like anecdotal. We're hearing that there's a need for this. We've been also paying attention to how the population is changing. So for example, over 20% of our current freshman class is an EL, an English learner student, and most of them, their primary language is Spanish. So their heritage language is Spanish. Actually, the high school we've been talking about this before this school year as a potential need because districts around us have had the class. When the teacher brought it forth and started doing the research, we felt it was important to survey the students. So we surveyed our current students. We also surveyed the kids who have really met the language credit requirement. If this class was offered, would you have taken it? And then also the survey it may have already, Christy, you can tell me if it already went to the middle school or is going to be at the middle school so we can gauge who of the 8th graders would be interested in taking the course. But I know Mr. Bigelow's, so not yet, but that's our plan too, to see. So depending on registration, we may run 1 section next year, but we can also be running a couple of sections. The other thing that's on our mind is if our heritage speaker population continues to grow, districts that have higher numbers will create a second course. So it might be Heritage 1, Heritage 2, or Heritage A and Heritage B. So we're going to kind of study and see how it goes.
Thank you.
I always joke, I don't know if anybody knows this, but like I am a fluent Arabic speaker, but I would not qualify for a heritage Arabic class. We were joking about this when we were meeting at the high school because I don't write or read in Arabic. But yeah, I'm better for like if we offered Arabic 1, that would be me.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Appreciate it. All right. Moving into item 8, we have Courtney presenting on our budget amendment.
Hello, thank you for having me here tonight. One of these times I'll get up here and speak about really fun things like courses that we're offering, but today we're gonna talk about money. So in your board packet, there is 2 things. We've got the Q2 finance update as well as the Amendment 1. So the Q2 finance update is something that we started new this year. I brought the first one to you, I think it was in October, November, doing Q1. And so Q2 is now time. We were closing out the second quarter, so that is in there for you to review. Just a few things I want to point out is that this update is going to capture all actual revenue and expenditures from July through December. So it's capturing the whole 6 months and not just what happened in that specific quarter. The budget that's reflected in that update is going to be the current board adopted budget, which right now is the original budget that was adopted in June. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's not going to be reflective of the budget that I'm bringing you, the Amendment 1 tonight. In the packet, I just want to make sure that I know on what you're seeing on your screen as well in the board book, there was a typo. So it was the 2016 bond refinancing. I had it as 2019, so I just wanted to point that out that we did refinance the 2016 series bond. We did close on that in December. So over the course of that bond, that will be saving the district about $300,000. So that's exciting that we were able to get that taken care of. We also are proceeding with our pay down plan for the school bond loan fund. During this quarter, we made a principal payment of about $500,000, and we expect to make additional payments before the year end. So those are the main things that I wanted to point out in there. In your board packet, you also have the Amendment 1 summary. The summary document highlights the adjustments that were made from the original budget. The schedules shown here are added to the packet so that you can see the changes line item by line item. If you look in the column, the explanation columns, there's going to be letters. Those are the main things that we want to highlight. So you'll see like on local revenue, there's A. On the following page, there's the description to show what the change is and what the main driver of that change is. So just to go through some of the things that you'll see in there, the original budget was based on the foundation allowance that we were expecting of $10,000. So with the state adopting their budget so late, we had to make assumptions on what they were going to do. So we used in our original budget an estimate of $10,000 per pupil. It came in with the state budget at a little bit higher than that at $10,050. So that's reflected in our foundation allowance revenue. We also updated the FTE count to reflect what we're actually seeing right now, which we're looking at 7,540 FTE for the year. And that's about 72 FTE lower than what we were expecting when we did the original budget. Keep in mind, we still have School of Choice windows still open. We're still doing enrollments and getting students enrolled. So there's always going to be some fluctuation in those estimates. We did receive a generous donation this year of the Wildcat Stadium turf. So we are required to book that into our financials. So there's a revenue with a corresponding expenditure. It's a net zero impact to the bottom, but those change some of those line items. The funding for Section 27L2, which is that educator compensation that we received from the state, we did receive guidance as well as an amount, so that was not reflected in the original budget, so we have that reflected in the amendment. And then associated salary and benefit costs for that will be spread throughout the expenditures as well as the revenue. We also had successful settlements of all of our collective bargaining agreements. So those were all finalized after we did the original budget. So the changes for those are also reflected in all of those salary and benefit lines. We did increase our operating transfer, which I will talk more in detail about, but that is the operating transfer line. You'll see there's a significant change in there from what we were expecting in the original budget, and that is to address the urgent facility needs that we identified during the sinking fund campaign. And then we also updated the audited fund balance from last year. Our financials are audited after we do the original budget, so every year when we do the Amendment 1, we'll update that prior year ending balance to have our beginning balance of this year reflective. So as Christy mentioned in her presentation, one of the biggest changes in the Amendment 1 from the original budget is we are asking the board to authorize the use of fund balance. Since the sinking fund did not pass, the district has been reflecting on some potential solutions. The amendment that I'm presenting tonight would allow us to do a one-time transfer from the general fund into the capital projects fund to address those immediate needs for our repairs and equipment that were identified during the sinking fund campaign. I want to make it clear that this is a one-time solution and it is not an ongoing resolution. It does provide an avenue for us to be able to address those health and safety concerns across the district, such as the door locks, the boilers, the roof repairs, and some of the other major needs that we're seeing. So when we were trying to determine, this was something that we talked quite in depth with the finance committee, the board finance committee, trying to determine where we would feel comfortable with that fund balance ending at. So the purpose of a fund balance is to make sure that you have enough working capital to cover your expenses. The fund balance is not intended to be a savings account that you can use for a rainy day. So although it seems like we have a large fund balance, it is substantiated by the amount of disbursements that we have each month. The bulk of our revenue comes from state aid, and that's paid one time each month on the 20th. So throughout the year, we have to ensure that until we get that state aid payment each month, we need to make sure that we have enough working capital to cover those expenses, such as accounts payable, our credit cards, our payroll, and anything that comes up through the month. So this schedule is actually in your Q2 finance update, as well as it was in the Q1. It shows what we pay out each month to kind of give you an idea of when we say how much we need of working capital. It is a substantial amount. When you look at October, between the disbursements, which would be payment to our vendors, the cost of our benefits each month for our employees, our utility bills, like all of those things that we need for operating the district, and then our payrolls, we're right about $14 million. So our fund balance of $17 million really does not give a huge amount of wiggle room. Another thing to consider is that we do pay our staff on a bi-weekly schedule. So 2 months out of the year, we actually have 3 payrolls. So if it worked out in the calendar that the third payroll fell in October, we would breach that $15 million mark. So that's how we substantiated the fund balance that we're looking at. Steve Tadazak, our Oakland Schools resident that has been here in the district, he did this analysis for the Oakland County fund balances. So this chart shows the fund balances across the county, showing that we're really middle of the road. So we're not at the top, we're not at the bottom, we're kind of like right there in the middle with the rest of the county. Something that I really want to make sure to point out is that the fund balance is a percentage of our operating expenditures. So when you look at our 17% fund balance and Troy's 17% fund balance, which is just right above us, they have double in their fund balance when you look at it as a dollar amount. So looking at the percentage is, you have to really factor in all of the different things that go into effect of what you need that working capital for. And then also on a flip side, the majority of these districts have a sinking fund in place, meaning they have a steady flow of income coming in to be able to address those emergency needs that we currently do not have. So if you look at Lake Orion, where they're pretty similar in FTE as us, they're sitting at an 11% fund balance with just under $12 million, and they're able to comfortably do that because they know that each year they're going to be bringing in that sinking fund, that if they have a boiler go out or they have a roof leak, they can use those funds, where our operating budget is supporting that right now. And then also looking at what we are going to ask for, a fund balance amount right now is going to bring us right down to that, to 15 million or 13.7%. And that would still keep us kind of lower than we are now, but in that middle range. So that's why we landed on that number. We're comfortable with what our disbursements go out and where we're at with the fund balance. But again, one-time solution, not an ongoing strategy, because we will not be able to sustain that in the future. So just looking at some of the revenues, our revenue budget came in about 106 million. Some of the major changes, like I mentioned before, was that donation of the Wildcat Stadium turf that was recognized in local revenue. The state source revenue has some fluctuations in there. Those would be from the state did some changes to the MIPSR or the retirement funding, so those are reflected in this Amendment 1, as well as those changes in enrollment and foundation allowance would be in that line. And then also the federal source revenue is due to the federal government was also late in finalizing their budget, so just grant revenue coming in less than we expected based off our original estimations. Our expenditure budget, the expenditure budget encompasses those fund transfers, so that's why it's more than the revenue. So we're coming in right over $109 million. Again, some of the major things among all category lines are those collective bargaining agreements, as well as the 27L. Those hit all of our salary lines, so they're going to be encompassed in all of those different categories. Our operations and maintenance budget was decreased. That is because at the end of the year last year, we had more available funds to be able to transfer into our capital projects than we originally expected. So some of the things we expected to pay for out of the general fund, we were able to allocate some capital projects funds to cover. So that's reflective, those changes are reflective in this amendment. The donation of the Wildcat turf is going to be in the athletic activities line. That's that net zero from the revenue and the expenditures. And then the transfer outs, you'll see that the transfer to the capital funds was significantly increased. And then just a few things about the other funds. There is a amendment for the community service, which is our child care fund, our food service, and then our capital projects. Some of the fluctuations that we saw in the community service is how the grant funds were allocated. So some of those were spread through the different lines based on what Ann had allocated in her GSRP budget after the original budget was presented. The food service, we had open projects with the OEIC kitchen that were not completed as of June 30th. So we had less than expected expenditures in fiscal '25, but then those trailed into this year. So those changes are reflected. And then the capital projects fund, again, the biggest change is that increased transfer from general fund. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Questions, comments?
I guess from you, thank you for just highlighting, especially when we're talking about that, our general fund and how that's used. And I know there was discussions, we just coming out of the millage discussions, right, of 17% versus 17 million, and you have 17 million laying around, but kind of showcasing that. So the October, that was not a 3 payroll month this year though, right?
No.
That's what I thought. And so even without that, you're seeing 11 million just, and then plus the payroll being almost 2.6.
Correct.
And so, yeah, so that kind of shows where the 15 million, what we're talking about now, is really the floor of what we felt comfortable.
Right. And also to keep in mind, our state aid comes in 11 months out of the year. So the month of September, we actually don't get a state aid payment. So we are fully carrying the month of September. And then October generally is our heaviest accounts payable month. That's when we're ramping up. We pay a lot of our vendors for the year. You know, we'll pay our yearly obligation to them at the beginning of the year to get the services going. So that is, you know, like I said, that's one of our heavier months. As you can see, October to November, there's a significant decrease from that disbursement. But even when you average those 3 months, it was still right around the 13.5 million, 14 million. So we did talk in Finance Committee that we wanted to have a little bit of buffer for if it did a 3-pay month, fell on a heavy AP, or hopefully it won't happen again, but this year we were looking at the state might not even getting that first state aid payment out in October. So, you know, we had loans lined up with the bank, and we don't want to get in that situation because that's just going to cost us even more money. Mm-hmm.
So assuming that would be the contingency plan, should something else happen crazy this year with the budget and our legislators dragging their feet, it would equate to loans this year?
Correct.
At
yes.
the 15, yeah.
So I think when we figured it out last year that we could have carried through the through November, and if we wouldn't have gotten November state aid, we would have triggered the loan with Oxford Bank. There also are options where you can do a state aid note, I think is what it's called, but that comes with a cost as well. So if we can stay out of loaning, that is obviously ideal. However, we do recognize that there are immediate needs right now that we need to address in the district, and without the sinking fund passing, we are, you know, just exploring all options.
Thank you. I appreciate the work done on that and lifting up the contingency plans and being fully transparent as requested. So thank you very much. Are you talking about the 27L, or do we just have that in the packet?
I can. I think it's just for approval. Ryan spoke on it last week, I think. And provided an update, right,
From
the
Finance
Finance
Committee. Yeah, I
Committee,
just didn't know if you had anything that
so
you
I
were
think
going to
it's
say
just
about
for
it.
you guys to approve the
Right, this
motion.
is the additional payments for staff. Yeah. Yep, So,
I can make a motion.
thank you, Mike.
Move to approve 27L spending as presented.
Support, and thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D, we had the asbestos abatement bid. John, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. In your packet for first reading is the asbestos abatement bid tied to the 4 structures over on OEIC property related to the center program. It is a first reading. It is Again, a part of the center program project, we went out and requested for proposals, had multiple vendors join us through a walkthrough before we released the actual documentation to respond. So that way we ensured that the people bidding knew exactly what they were dealing with, so there's no missing anything. We did receive bids on January 29th and opened them at 2 p.m. We are actually recommending the lowest bidder in that process, so it is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the administration to finalize and execute a contract with City Abatement Services in the amount of $87,766.75. And again, this is just first reading. In terms of the actual center program itself, in terms of the tight timeline, we will be bringing 2 bid packs in the near future, one in March and one in April, I believe, and that are tied to that project. So we are requesting to have them first one read and approval at those meetings. They're going to go through the full-scale construction-related RFP program review, put together, and then the package that the board will see will have all the data. So because of the tight timelines, we would like to condense those to one read and approval. But those won't be coming the first one isn't due, I believe, until March. The second meeting in March, I think we have it scheduled for. But as you see them, they're going to be pretty basic. The first one is tied to the center program. It's most of the exterior work in terms of ground preparation and some footings works and things like that. So they're not going to be a huge package, but they'll be from a timeline crunch in terms of getting the people working and authorized with contract in hand. We will be requesting a temporary waiver on that approach. Do you want me to do a review on the other 2 items or that were first reads last meeting for the donations? And/or any questions on the asbestos? You got a question? Asbestos?
Yeah. Not about that. I understand what that is.
Okay.
For these things, for the center-based program, help me understand, are we upfronting the cost first and then we get reimbursed from the county after the work's completed, or how does that money flow?
No, it is a reimbursement basis. So as the board goes, we're going to fund and execute contracts. Most of the contracts associated with, particularly the second bid package, won't be even paid out for some time because that work won't occur until, say, June, May, June. They'll be ramping up and getting all that done. So under the process, we do a reimbursement process with the ISD. So as we're going, like everything that we've done to date, we already have access to some startup piece of the funding. So that's already going to be feeding soon here into the process of reimbursement. So there will be a time lag, but it shouldn't be anything greater than a 30-day cycle.
Okay, thanks. Just want to make sure.
I said, do you want me to do the review of the 2?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So we do have two donations for second reading approval tonight. The first one is an anonymous donor who is supporting a weight room refresh project at the high school. That is a very generous donation. It is expected to have a completion timeline, and the agreement itself is following the same format in which we did the stadium turf. So the timeline in which that agreement would expire is written up to be April 24th. We expect the work to be done before then, but we still put some pad time for just in case. So once that agreement is executed, they'll do their refresh work. It'll be expiring, and then the leasehold improvements done in the facility will basically be taken over by and owned by the district. And then the second one, we actually received another generous donation from Mid-Michigan Materials and Koenig Materials, $10,000 donated to the district athletics to support the Wildcat screen, weather control screen that's on the stadium now. Any questions on those?
Just a heads up to the board. I know we typically like to have second readings on everything, but understand that the timeline here. So when those do arise, please make sure to check your board packets early and get those questions in so that there are not delays in getting those approved for the center. So thank you for that.
Yeah, please feel free in those cases if it's a time, because of the timeline, if you want me to call you, or we'll set up a different communication piece. So if there's a clarifying question that isn't straightforward based on the write-up, please do.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
With those bid packets, not to delay the stuff, are you expecting those a little bit earlier than like a Wednesday before the board meeting, or I guess like timing wise from your perspective?
One's going to be real tight, one should be a little earlier. So as soon as we get them, we'll get them formatted, put together, written up, they'll be put out.
Okay,
One will be tighter, though.
okay.
Appreciate the heads up on that.
Yep.
Okay. We
I
have
can
a, thank you,
move.
Mike.
Move to approve the anonymous donor lease agreement as presented.
Support. James, thank you. Discussion. Just like to say once again to this donor, thank you very much for your support and commitment to Oxford Community Schools. And this is very generous once again, and we very much appreciate it. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second motion.
Move to
Mike, thank you.
approve the Wildcat windscreen donation as presented.
Support. James, thank you. Discussion? This one, we can actually call out the name. So Mid-Michigan and Koenig, thank you for your support of Oxford Community Schools. It is a very generous donation that we are very excited to accept. So thank you once again. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 9, unscheduled public comment. Do we have any this evening? No, thank you. Our guest star, Kelly. Scheduled activities, we have Count Day coming up and a list of additional meetings, midwinter break, of course. Any administrative clarification, Dr. Milligan? No. Final board comments. I'll just go ahead and say Anne recommended a webinar recently that I attended. I'm sure you did as well. And so just updating the board, I sent you the materials for that. It was very informative. It was the Safe Homes, Safe Schools webinar, and it really spoke to you know, the preventive measures and getting the communications out there about safe storage in Michigan and going a bit above and beyond and integrating that within your safety processes within the district. And there were a lot of great speakers that gave examples. And so if you haven't had a chance to check out that email that I forwarded you with the slides, if you have any questions, it was a good presentation. So thank you again for recommending it. But then also, you know, I look forward to how we can further enhance our safe storage practices within the district. So I look forward to that conversation. As an added to what we talked about earlier with superintendent appreciation, once again, just echoing our support and appreciation for Dr. Milligan. And while we're talking about that, I want to acknowledge that this past week was School Counselor Appreciation Week, and then this coming weekend is our Security Resource Officers Appreciation. And so for our SROs and our counseling staff, who both contribute greatly to the safety and mental health of our students and staff, from the board, we appreciate you all from the bottom of our hearts. So thank you. Any additional final comments? All right, would anybody like to tackle the language for closed session? Not all at once. Thanks, Mike.
Move to meet in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 8(1)A, to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of an employee, and Section 8(1)H, to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by the state or federal statute.
Support. Ann, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote, James?
I'm going to call your name. Need a yes or no, please. Ann Atchison? Yes. Mike Alderud?
Yes.
Sarah Beth Capjorni?
Yes.
Mike Whitney?
Yes.
James Summers, yes. Amanda McDonough?
Yes. It's 8:24. We are moving into closed session. It is 9:43. We are back from closed session. We don't have any action items following closed session. So at 9:43, I will adjourn this meeting.